Give me power, give me strength, give me hope, come light the way. Give me passion like a fire, come move me like a wave. Give me power, give me power.
Welcome everyone to the very first episode of the podcast Brisbane based. For this very first episode, we sat down with Ben Day and Sam Carson from Acai Brothers, 20 plus store nationwide franchise and Australia's leading superfood bar franchise. Sit down, have a listen. There's a lot you're going to take from this one.
Will speak to me. Left all the fear of my heart constantly broke.
Such a short time together, so I guess I just want to jump right into it. I guess just to properly set the scene, you know, for the story for you guys and provide a bit of context for any of the audience who may not know the Acai Brothers. I guess I want to take it back to really where it first started for you both. And obviously growing up, you were both in the Redlands area. So you guys were actually at high school together.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, well, we grew up in the Redlands, and if anyone knows the Redlands area of Brisbane, it's a pretty small, tight-knit community. Most people, you know, pretty much knows everyone in that community. When you're walking around, everyone says hello, especially when, you know, we both came from a very heavy sporting background. So I think that well known in the area more for our athleticism than our business prowess at the time. Yeah. So
Yeah, we certainly crossed paths a little bit when it came to like track and field and who's going to beat who. And
Did you guys actually race each other?
no, we never raced. We always
but
had
if we did, who would win?
Yeah, Sam would win in a sprinting.
I know Sam's kind of quick.
Yeah. I was more jumping. I was more jumping.
Yeah, he's more baseball and I was more like track and field. But I think like as athletes and as competitive sports people, like we have this underlining structure and determination to succeed. And then the first time that Benny and I truly connected, you could really see that, yes, we came from two different worlds, but we had so many commonalities that made where we are today very successful.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess, you know, to paint the picture for the audience as to what you guys were like in high school, because I think a lot of the people watching may be a bit that younger demo and maybe just starting out themselves or in high school or just graduating from uni. Like, were you guys, like you said, driven, motivated, ambitious? Like, were you doing entrepreneurial things in high school, or was it mainly focused on sport?
Yeah, look, I think personally, one thing that I was very fortunate enough to find was my love for business very early on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was really interesting, like business classes, entrepreneur classes, creating ideas.
In high school?
In high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like there was a business class, it was just called Business and Innovation. And it was one of my favorite classes, above and beyond HPE.
Yeah,
right?
That's rare.
And yeah, which was really interesting. And it was like year 10 where I truly started to love this idea of creating a concept, sustaining the concept, and making something successful. Yeah. And it was at that point I was like, wow, okay, I think I need to probably dive into this path outside of school.
And you started doing that in high school?
Yeah, in high school, and then moved from high school to study an extended major in marketing and branding. So.
And what about you, Benny?
I was a little bit more probably the opposite. I was always a very creative kid. You know, very good in the arts, and very good from a sporting point of view. And I think that my goal always, I think what you find is when you're a young person, or even as you get older, like you have to really hone in on one thing if you want to be really, really good at it. And I think for me at the time, I was I excelled at baseball, and that was something that I put all my attention into. Yeah. I did very, very well at school, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I always said to myself, I want to be a professional baseballer. And I spent every single minute of every single day dedicated towards that fact. And I got to America after school and played semi-professional baseball and professional baseball over in Texas and then California. Yeah. And I thought, you know, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But, you know, spending nearly 2 years over there, it got to a point where I think it's a very big dream to have for where I was in my space, and a very, very tough ladder to climb. Yeah. And I was only 18 at the time. So by the time I sort of hit that nearly 20 mark, I started to look at where I was in my life and where I wanted to be. Yeah. And that's when I said to myself, like, I think I want to go home and I'll go back to university, and I want to try to study something that might lead towards, you know, if I can't be a professional baseballer, how can I maybe, you know, train people up to become the next professional baseballer, become the next professional athlete? So I studied more in the human movements, and I did a master's in exercise science, and then opened up a small strength and conditioning gym focused on developing, you know, amateur athletes into elite athletes, and then elite athletes, you know, getting into that professional professional level when it came to sport. And that was sort of where I started to head, and that gave me my introduction to business, and that gave me my introduction to entrepreneurship. And then I was able to use my creativity to then, try to grow that business. So I think that's where everything sort of stemmed, and it wasn't the direction that I had in line for myself when I was in school. If anyone spoke to me, it was like, I will be a professional athlete, and most people believe that, and I did get to that level. I just, honestly, when I sat back and I put all my time and effort into it, I just sort of, I said that no matter if I do this for the next 10 years, I don't think I'm going to be where I want to be. And
Why not? Just because you didn't.
I just wasn't at that level. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that if I gave myself another 8 years, maybe. But I wanted something that I was like, I want to excel at whatever I do. And if I can't excel at this, then I'm going to be the best at something else. And that's when I started to put my hone my skills into strength and conditioning at that time.
Yep. Awesome. And back on the high school thing, you said you were pretty studious, Ben. I mean, did you boys do well in high school? Did you care? Like, did you really try?
English I hated. Maths I hated.
Yep.
Science I hated. But when it came to business, I freaking loved it. Yeah. And just stemming from like the athletic background as well, I was a track and field athlete at the time. 400 meter hurdler. Yep. And did that from 8 years of age right through until the age of 20. Wow. During that phase, you learn a lot about who you are as a person, how to deal with copious amounts of lactic acid.
Oh, especially the 400. The 400 is nasty. Like, I had a mate who was a 400 meter runner, and he would legitimately be vomiting after his training sessions, every training session without fail. So much harder than the 100, for example.
And I look at actually how someone would deal with like the high levels of lactic acid versus how do people deal with stress, anxiety, and hard work in business. And dude, it's like the exact same. How do people deal with their emotions when they're full of lactic acid and they're just so angry at their coach for telling them to do another 400 meter rep versus like when your cash flow isn't right on a Monday morning, or you might have a massive failure over the weekend, or business isn't as luxury as it looks, right? How do you deal with that? What I learned in track and field was the exact same as what I'm learning right now in business. And very fortunate to be able to find that at such a young age.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into your baseball, Ben, and into your track and field. Like you said, there is a direct correlation between your performance in those regards in business today for Acai Brothers. I mean, what was your day-to-day like when you guys were growing up and you were really grinding, trying to be a pro baseballer and achieving that, and trying to, Australia World Youth Olympics, right?
Yeah. So gold medalist at
gold medalist.
Yeah.
Boy.
At World Youth Olympics in Sydney.
Yeah.
It was the only year that they didn't travel around the world. So I was like,
I was the same as well. It must have been that year level. Like, I swear to God, like every time I made an Australian team, it was the year that the Australian team didn't travel anywhere. I was like, well, what is this? I want to travel the world. Like, let's go. Yeah.
It was so true. Like the world, it was like the only year. I think the next year was like in China or something ridiculous. And we had ours in our backyard, which is Sydney. And, but like a typical day would be, you'd wake up, you'd do Pilates in the morning, then you'd go to school all day, and then you'd train from like 3:30 till around 6:30 at night. And then you'd actually go home and then hit the books. And those books would be studying for the next HPE exam or the next business exam or the next math class or whatever that might be, until you literally pass out at your desk, and then you have to roll yourself to bed. And that was pretty much high school for us. Well, for me personally.
Yeah, I was a very high achiever as well. I think that like I wanted to, as I said, I wanted to be the best at everything. I wanted to excel at everything, and that just came natural within me, instinctive, competitive nature. So when it came to sport, I was playing every single sport at school. I played AFL to a very high level, to Queensland level. I did track and field. I did touch football at the time. I did baseball, and everything like was centered around playing sport. And obviously baseball was that main sport, and that's where majority of my afternoons were always spent. But when it came to like spending time in school, it was definitely sport and being the best I could be in school. And yeah, that's where my majority of my focus was. Like, I think that I've always been a very driven person and a very motivated person. I think that sport teaches you that. And I think that we've spoken, like we were talking to Kerwin Ray, and he was saying to us that like the people that he always looks to hire within his company are athletes, military, or what was the last one?
I've heard him say
martial arts background.
Martial arts.
Those three backgrounds, he said, just make for the best either employees or entrepreneurs, because you learn so much when it comes to work ethic and structure and persistence and dealing with failure, that when you move that attention from something that is so strict and is so one-sided into business, you become pretty much a machine, because it's just implementing everything that you've learnt as that particular background and chucking it now into business.
Yeah, and even if we touch on like some of the staff members that we hire across the country, that's part of our franchise network, the people that really excel, that don't get flustered at point of sale when you've got 30 people lining up, the people who are very well composed and can deliver like a tremendous product out to that customer are the people who come from those backgrounds.
They know how to perform.
They know how to perform, and they know how to put on a game face when you are 30 people deep and you can't see the finish line.
It's stressful.
Yeah.
That's what I find so interesting about you two both, and I guess I haven't explored it with many other people, but to hear that you were like that since high school just blows my mind. So, I mean, you guys weren't partying, like it wasn't like the girl scene, you weren't massively into that sort of thing in high school?
I didn't
Well,
even
that's the
drink
thing,
till I was 18,
right?
yeah.
I had my first beer when I was 17 with
Yeah.
Dad.
Stop.
Dude,
Yeah, I was
remember
18 when I had my first drink.
Stop.
On my 18th birthday.
I remember it plain as day, man. Dad was like, here's your first beer, and I had my first beer, and I had the first sip, and I was like, Dad, I'm already tipsy. And he's like, no, you're not. My dad's like an ex-muso.
Yeah.
So like he's used to the grog.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so I had my first beer, and he was like, man, like you're not tipsy, but like welcome to the beer life. Anyway, it was at that sort of point where I started to actually engage a lot more in the social side of life.
Started to live a little.
Live a little bit more, go to Moreton Island with the boys, Stradbroke Island with the boys, go overseas and have some boys trips, etc., etc. And it was at that point where my love truly started to deteriorate with track and field. And so like going back to, we're very similar in so many regards, because going back to Benny's point about, am I going to be a professional athlete? It was the exact same with myself. It was like, am I going to be a professional 400 meter hurdler? Yes or no. I can probably have a little bit of this, but then I can probably put my focus elsewhere, and that happened to be business.
But because you probably could have been, right? You probably were good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I got offered to have a scholarship to the US, which was exciting, and I wish I took that at the time, but
Right.
hey,
Interesting.
you can't say yes to everything, and you have to just take life as it comes. But yeah, I truly do believe there would have been an opportunity for me in the track and field sector, whether that was in Australia or whether that was in the US. I'm just not exactly sure, but hey, I'm so freaking happy with the choice I made.
You made some good choices, man.
Yeah.
You made some good choices. And growing up, like in their household, did you guys grow up in a wealthy family? Were you middle class? Talk me through that.
Yeah, I'd say both of us pretty much in sort of a middle class sort of range. Like I wouldn't say that.
Obviously,
like,
Redland's not notorious for having
we
millionaires walking
don't
around.
come from families with a lot of money at all. Like everything that we did, we were very, very lucky that our parents always supported us. Whether they were at the means in which to be able to support us all the time. Like I think that why I pushed with my baseball for so long, I think came down to the fact that my parents just put so much time, so much money into me trying to make it that I felt like I owed them something. And I think that I pushed probably 2 years longer than I maybe wanted to push. And I think I pushed longer overseas than I wanted to push, only for the fact that I just cared so much about what they did and how much they gave up. And I think Sam was in the same boat, like with the fact that they would just do anything for you. Like Sam's coach was his mum. And my dad came from an AFL background, was a professional AFL player. And then when I went to baseball from AFL, which I was very good at AFL, straight away left the AFL scene and then somehow became, head of the region when it came to baseball. Like he was just they were so entrenched in what we wanted to do. And I think that was the big driving force with us, was they were so supportive. But they definitely didn't come from a background that could definitely afford what we were trying to do. So I think that taught us a lot as well. And I think that that's what got us into business, and that's what got us really into Acai Brothers to start with. We both sat down one day and we said, look, we just want to make it better for our families and our friends before ourselves. Like that was one of our big major driving things, was like, I want to give back to my family first. I want to be able to do all these things for them because they gave up so much for us. And we both agreed on that fact that was one of the driving forces that got us into starting Acai Brothers.
My parents certainly didn't come from a business background or any level of high income at all. But I tell you what I did learn from them was values and morals and how to love, care and support people. And that's what I've taken away from my family. Money for them is not a driving force at all, but being surrounded by the right people, teaching the right message and educating their people around them is exactly what they did. And so that's what I've taken away from my parents, and that's why I reckon it's helping me day to day with business and trying to be a successful man is just from the morals that they've taught me. God love them, they're amazing.
Oh yeah, gotta love your family. And so I guess that's almost a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, if you will. Like, I want to give back to my parents. That's the motivator. That's the driver for you guys.
Yeah, it's being able
or
to.
It was in the beginning. Whether it's,
I think it still always is. Like
definitely
it's still at the back
is,
of our
yeah.
mind. Like I think
For
that there's both myself and Sam are very trusting, very giving people, and I think that's where we probably got along from the very, very start. And that trust and that will to give back has always been there for us. And I think that that's where we like connected on a really deep level. And I think that, you know, one day I want to be able to give everything to my family and to my parents, because that they literally gave everything for me, and they put themselves in such a stressful position for me to get to where I got to. And I've got them to thank for everything, you know? So like to be able to do that one day would be like the best feeling.
Well, at the end of the day,
world.
your biggest supporters are your family.
Yeah, that's
Like they're the ones.
They're going to be there no matter what.
100%, man.
Yeah.
Like, so at the end of the
They're
day.
the ones that share the Facebooks.
Yeah,
They're the ones,
they
John,
do.
like
Yeah.
share, like
my
you
dad
share.
shares everything.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. My mum and dad are the first to comment.
All the naked ones. He's like, I'm on board. I love it.
That's my
always.
son and his
Always.
mate, and like, you know, they are the biggest fans, and like, you've got to love and appreciate that. And so if there is ever an opportunity to be able to give back to our family, then 100%, man, we're going to be doing it. And like, just in terms of trust, like there's this underlining trust that Benny and I have that's like unspoken. And we'll probably dive into that a little bit later on, but like there's this trust where business partnerships, very common, it goes pear-shaped. But there's a trust between Ben and I that we have that's not really ever spoken about, but you can actually see it when we're talking and when we're together, and when the staff members see us and when the franchise network see us. And I think our parents have taught us that. Yeah. I really do.
Yeah. And I guess continuing with the story, I mean, I guess the next step is graduation. So you guys are out of high school now. I mean, given that you were sort of almost had that chip on your shoulder and you're wanting to make something of yourselves, why was university the next step for you both in that regard? You already sort of touched on it, Ben, to train the elite athletes.
I think, as I said, we were both high achievers in school. Like, I know Sam was pretty much the same as well. Like, always probably wanted to be the best at everything. And I think that the natural step when you leave high school, especially like we finished high school back in 2006, so like that's, you know, a long time ago now, you know what I mean? And that was literally like entrepreneurship. What was entrepreneurship? I didn't even know what the word entrepreneur was really when I was going through school. So the next natural step was always go to university and start to study. Like I went straight out of high school, straight into university, and I was studying to start with teaching, because I was like, you know what, I want to teach kids. Like I love, you know, PE and I love health, and I want to be able to give back and teach because I love that side of school. And I had so many teachers that were like mentors to me, and I want to be that person. So like I straight away went into school and university, and I started teaching, but I only lasted like 3 months in that before I then got selected to go play baseball overseas. So I had to defer university, and I went and chased that for a second, and I did that for the first part. I came back the next year, went back into university again, and go, okay, cool, this year I'm going to start university. Did it for 3 months. It was funny because the first 3 months I had already done all my work because I was going back into the same degree. So I had all my work done for the subjects for the first 3 months. So I was like,
cruisy.
Oh, this is sweet. Like my books are finished. I'd like nearly leave the class and go get some food, come back, and the books are already done. And I nearly did 3 months again before I had to defer again. That's when I went overseas to America, and I stayed for the longer period of time. It was just the natural thing. There was no, like when we were growing up, I don't think it was, social media wasn't a massive thing back then. Like we didn't get to see that many entrepreneurs, and we weren't surrounded naturally by entrepreneurs. Our parents weren't entrepreneurial people.
We were surrounded by athletes.
Yeah, we're surrounded by athletes for sure, and that was the biggest thing. Like, so that's what we were driven to do. And a lot of our mentors and a lot of the people that we looked up to were from the sporting industry, and I think they actually were the ones that pushed me away from sport in the end, because I could look up to the guys that were 10 years ahead of me, and I saw what they've achieved, and it was actually really, really sad for me to watch, because I saw so many amazing athletes, especially in the baseball area, push for 10, 12 years of their life, give up from 18 years old, sign, move to America and spend 12 years through the minor leagues, and then get to nearly a big league level, get injured or not quite make the list. And now they're like 32 with nothing to show for themselves, because you get paid nothing playing minor league baseball. Like you're barely surviving. And then you come home and they're back living with their parents and they're working at the local meat factory. And I started looking at myself and I was like that's possibly me. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's possible, definitely possible, because I look at these guys and they're amazing athletes. And they were people that I looked up to and I still look up to and are really good friends of. But I think that's what I weighed up, and it was like, well, the natural next step for me is university then, because I got to get a degree. Like I got to go do something by myself. Yeah.
You, Sammy?
So the transition for me, I went to QUT here in Brisbane and I studied psychology. Go figure, random as. But I'm like, I need to understand the human brain. I need to understand what people do. I need to understand the emotional intelligence of a customer or a person or my people around me. Why do people do what they do? So I did 4 subjects and I hated it. And I was like, I'm out because this is weird. I'm starting to really understand people a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And,
I'm not liking it. Yeah.
I'm not liking it. And then found, marketing and branding and business were obviously what I wanted to stick to from year 10. So then I ended up just diving into that. And the first year of business, you sort of just take it for granted because you're like, this is easy. It was pretty much a common sense the first year in business, and it was quite good to learn what's happening in the outside world, and I really liked all of that. But during that time was obviously when I was doing track and field, and a day in the life of a university student who's also trying to be an Olympian was you wake up, you go to Pilates, you go to a lecture, you go to the track at QE2. You would do like a full-on session. You then go finish your classes, do a lecture, do a shoot. Then you go back to the track that afternoon and do more training. And then if you have a little bit of time at night, you'll probably do a yoga class or another Pilates class. And no word of a lie, that was the life Monday through to Saturday of my life during university. And that was my transition. And then halfway through university, I was like, you know what, I'm starting to get really bored of marketing and branding and business. I think I need a full-time job and I need to start earning some income. So I left university, I put that on hold for 2.5 years. And I started working at a print and media company, selling print and media. Back in the day when print and media was massive, right? Yeah. Huge. Yeah. And it was a company that was doing quite well at the time, and I was one of their sales reps. And I lasted about 3 days. And
right.
Yeah, the reason why was because it wasn't exactly what I wanted, and I remember going home and crying every single night going, what am I doing with my life? What hell is going on? Why am I now selling print and media to companies who I don't even know, and I don't even know how to sell print and media? So I went to my dad at the time and said, dude, what do I do? Like, what do I do? He's like, man, life's too short, quit and find another job. Anyway, I quit, and I walked down to Good Life Health Clubs and I said, guys, I want to be a sales consultant. Give me a job. Anyway, they gave me a job. I walked in, I said, hey, can I please speak to your manager? I said, look, this is my background. This is who I am. My family's from the Redlands. We can have a lot of connections here in the Redlands. I believe I can help you sign up a lot more people than what you're probably signing up. Can you give me an opportunity? Anyway, I did that and I walked in and he gave me a job the next week. And so I stuck with Good Life for about 3.5 years, 4 years. And I learned a lot about sales, a lot about operations, a lot about people, customers, cash flow management, marketing, branding, local store marketing. That's where I learned a lot about my business world. And then from there I went back to university a couple of years later.
Why'd you go back? I went back as well. It was the same with me.
Yeah. The reason why I went back was because I don't want to have an unfinished degree. So you know what, man? We opened up Acai Brothers. Like, to cut a long story short, we opened up Acai Brothers, and I was still studying, finishing off that degree when we were opening up Acai Brothers. And I only finished my degree 1.5 years ago when I was 26.5 years of age.
Was that because you saw the value in the degree, or is it just the stubbornness of
I finish when
I start?
Yeah.
I finish when I start.
I didn't want to be like, I sort of like finished halfway through my degree.
You're not a quitter.
I don't really have anything to show for it. I was like pretty much the oldest person with the degree finishing my extended major in marketing. But at the same time as well, I didn't want to have an unfinished degree. That's just not in my nature at all. Regardless of how old I am, I needed to finish it. Regardless of how busy I was, I needed to finish it. Yes, it was a crazy time of my life during that time of studying and opening up a new concept, but we did not let it beat me at all.
Practically, how many subjects were you doing at the time you were running the business?
It was
very quickly.
It was two subjects.
So part-time.
Yeah, part-time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I guess the question for both of you, knowing what you know now and obviously the path that you eventually went down, I mean, would you advise your 18, 19-year-old selves to go back and do the uni thing? Would you do it again?
Personally, I went on to do, I did nearly 6 years of university by the end of it. Like I did it. So when I came back from America, I went straight into university again. I was like, a third time, like I'm going in, I'm going to get this done. I did human movements to start with. That moved into clinical exercise physiology. And then I went and studied my master's over at ECU in Western Australia, which was another 2 years there, doing strength and conditioning and specializing in athlete development. And to be honest, like that's what gave me the confidence to start my own athlete training center, which gave me my introduction to business and entrepreneurship. So like, I can never say that I shouldn't have done that because I don't know whether I would have then gone and opened a gym and had the confidence to go and do that stuff if it wasn't for the backing of my degree and what I knew. Yep. So it's very, very hard because like to start with in business, I used my university degree. I use none of it now. Like, you know what I mean? Like I could have started Acai Brothers to start with and I would have looked back and maybe gone, why did I do, you know, masters in exercise science? But I didn't. I went to the gym industry, something I was confident in and comfortable in. So to say that I shouldn't have done my university back then, I can't say it because I just don't think I would have gone that direction, which then gave me the opportunity to do Acai Brothers, both from a monetary point of view to start a startup and then just from the confidence of already, you know, of doing it.
Yeah, if I was talking to Sam at 18 years of age now, with the resources that we have right now,
Exactly, and the know-how that you have.
which I think is a little bit different.
It's a different question.
Because it's like, I feel like we have, like back in the day, and funnily enough, I was talking to one of my friends the other day who's very, very successful, and he's like, when I was building business, it was like level 5, right? And we would have no resources, right? So just say we're at level 5 and he would have no resources, but because he had the determination, the willing to want to use the resources around him, he would take level 5 to level 20 in a matter of time. Right now, we're sitting at level 20 with all of these amazing resources, but we'll probably only get to level 25 because we don't know how to utilize the resources because we are absolutely flooded with so much information. And so if I was to talk to Sam at 18 years of age and say, it just depends on what you're going to study. It really does. Like marketing and branding at university, it did teach me a lot, but it has changed so much. And I can probably learn more by talking to more people right now, and I can probably learn more by spending a little bit more time on YouTube. Right, like so. Right now it's changed, but back then, university and studying business was where the information was. It wasn't on YouTube and Instagram and talking to people like yourself and learning more.
Yeah, as I said, it was. I don't think you thought you were going to have a job unless you did that. You know what I mean?
It was really the only way. There was almost no
what
other
you always
option.
thought was the best option. And I like it sounds so silly. We're only 30 years old. We're still young to
28.
think that. You know,
28.
back in the day,
God,
it was
29
like
are
this.
old
You know what I
men
mean?
now,
Like
30,
yeah.
geez.
So you know what I mean? But like you know, for our
29 in
parents,
April.
for our parents, for our parents, it was a different story again. You know what I mean? And like Sam made that point of like how he walked into good life and he fought for that job and then he busted his butt to get to the level he got to, and that's how it was as well. Like we own business now, and we see so many kids come in that expect a job and take that for granted and just go, well, where's my money? And like, you know, these are my rights and all this stuff. And I'll probably get in trouble for saying all this, but like at the same time,
No, you won't.
back then, yeah.
Fair work.
Yeah, exactly. Straight out. God, you can't say that. But back when we were doing it, back when we were doing it, like, you know, there was this one thing I remember at university, like everyone wanted this internship at QAS. It was like Queensland Academy of Sport, like, you know, only two students have to be the top of the, you know, 7 students, they're getting the highest GPA, whatever it is. And I wasn't that level. I was still a good student, but I was like, you know what, I'm not going to be a 7, but I want to work at the QAS. I have way more experience. I come from an athletic background. I used to be a QAS athlete. Why shouldn't I be that person? I'm like, I'm doing stuff on the side in strength and conditioning. These guys are just sitting there studying their books. Like, I have the practical experience. I walked into QAS and I just said, man, like, this is my background. This is what I'm going to do for you. And I'll be here every single day. And you don't pay me anything. Like, I'll do this for as long as you want me to do it for. Yeah. And I walked in, he gave me it over everyone else. Like a lot of the interns, the guys that thought they were going to get it were like, hang on, where'd this guy come from? I literally just walked in. I didn't expect that it was going to get given to me. I said, I'm going to go take this. And then I worked my ass off to stay there. And then before I knew it, they kept me on for another couple of years. And then I was getting paid. And then like that gave me my lead into where I wanted to go. And I think it's the same with us. Like we always worked our butt off when we got given something.
Dude, I remember, like, you know, I bought a club at the time, Snap Fitness.
And we'll get into that.
Yeah, we will dive into that. But it got voted the worst club in the world when I bought it.
What? Wait, like after you bought it?
After I bought No. Okay. So during that time, it was the worst club in the world.
What?
In terms of sales, growth, organization, structure.
For Snap Fitness, right?
For Snap Fitness, right? Not the whole. And anyway, I was like, wow, what am I in debt for? This is out of control. And I had many, many nights where I was questioning myself. But we can probably dive into that a little bit later on as term like the end result, but it truly shows that hard work, determination, and no entitlement will actually get you a lot of places.
We're going to get to that next.
Yeah.
But I just want to, you've obviously both sort of highlighted something. You walked into a fitness center and said, give me a job, and sold yourself. And you walked into an internship and said, I'm going to do it for free, I'm going to work my ass off. I find that very interesting because how I got my current job, you know, selling real estate, luxury real estate, is I interned for free for 5 months. And the same way I approach you guys to get you on the show is the same way I got my job. I cold emailed the guy I wanted to work for. He was working in the area I wanted to work, selling luxury property. I said, I will do whatever it takes. I will work for free. and I did not go away for 5
Do you know
months.
how rare that is? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so many kids, like, we can't even.
But it's very. But I think the
We have
reason
to pay
why
them
people
for
don't
training
do
or
it is
just come in
because
for a trial now.
they're so scared of like that answer.
Yeah.
They're so scared of what that person's going to say. And at the end of the day, if you truly like, at the end, the worst thing that they can say, and it sounds cliche, the worst thing that they can say is no. Or I don't have time for you right now, or we are too employed right now, and we don't have this infrastructure, we don't have the finances to be able to hire you, or whatever it might be. But the reason why we did it is because we don't really care what the answer is, but we're going to give it a freaking good crack, because at least we can say that we tried. If I didn't walk into Good Life that day, man, I wouldn't have had a job. And so that to me, I don't think I'd be able to sleep at night. Yeah.
Interesting. Now I want to get into the gym business. So obviously Elite Performance Gym, and then you bought your own Snap after working in the industry already for a period of time.
for a while, yeah.
So 600 to 1,700 members, huge growth. Like you said, it was voted the worst. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And you grew it to something that's amazing. And same for you, 50 to 250 members, Ben. I mean, walk me through the experiences of running a gym, the learnings from that, and how you guys grew.
So like when I first took over Snap Fitness Cleveland, there was no structure, no organization. The trainers didn't really know what they were doing at the time. The brand itself, like the local brand, didn't actually have like a very good presence within the local area. There was so many things wrong with it, but you could see a high level of opportunity. It needed some love and care in marketing, branding, operations. It needed a face.
Full makeover.
Yeah, full makeover, right?
Yep.
And I remember it plain as day. Like I remember investing the money and then going home to my family at that night and be like, what am I doing? Like it just got voted the worst club in the world. Like what is going on? How can I turn this baby around? And it's really interesting because I was full-time manager, because I wouldn't want anyone else to full-time manage that gym at the time. And I also had skin in the game. There was no way that I was going to let that not work. There was no way that I was not going to let that succeed.
Sometimes they're the best investments too, you know what I mean? Like if you look at a franchise like Snap that was very, very successful at the time, but then you have a gym that's apparently the worst in the network, you know that there's a winning formula with this brand, but there just must be something wrong with this gym. And sometimes they're the best investment. If you're a passionate, driven person and you actually genuinely care about that business, you'll make it successful, because people, like what we learn in the gym industry is that most of the time, regardless of what you're doing inside that gym and how well you're coaching them and all these things, we were finding that the majority of the people were coming in just for us. You know what I mean? Like that's what gets them out of bed most times. Is like, you know, I'm going to hang out with Ben, or I'm going to do this, or the atmosphere or the feeling that I get when I go there that we create. That's the reason that a lot of people first come, and then how good you then train them, you know, and the results they get is what keeps them there. You know what I mean? And I think we were just like really confident in ourselves that we could make it work. Just from what we'd experienced in the past, and we knew, and we were just so passionate, I think, with the gym industry, and same with you, like you were just so passionate with what we were doing, and people see passion, and straight away they're attracted to that. And a lot of the time, that's what people are just missing in their life. They're just missing that like one little ingredient that just makes them excited. And when they're then surrounded by people that are constantly excited or passionate about something, they then start to develop a passion for that.
It was it was really interesting. Like at the time, in the Redlands area, there was like 26 gyms, and like
it was saturated. Well,
90% of them
still
were 24/7.
saturated.
And it's like, well, how are you going to be any different to every other gym? And it's like we always talk about it in our concept, and it's like the 1%ers. So like when someone walks in, making sure that they always get a hello, making sure that the music is targeted to the demographic that is in the gym, and like as simple as that. Like we were the only gym that customized the music to the people that were in the gym.
Amazing. What was your demo, out of curiosity?
So like our demographic in the mornings was anyone between 25 right through to 50, 60. You get a lot of oldies in. So we'd always play like old tunes, man. And the oldies would like be dancing and having a bit of fun with their workouts and really changing their view on training. And then in the nighttime, it was like a rave. It was fun. It was like R&B Fridays. It was like electro, EDM, et cetera, et cetera. And that was a massive point of difference for a lot of people. And then it comes down to how clean the gym is. How clean are the showers, the toilets? How clean is the actual weights area? Are people cleaning up, yes or no? And it's those simple things, man, that can honestly make any brand change and allow more customers to walk through.
Yeah, so many people focus on getting people through the door straight away. They go, okay, cool, well, this business only has like 100 members, I need to get to 2,000 members, so I've got to get them in the door. But then they forget that if you're bringing people into a door or into a room or into a space that doesn't feel right or doesn't look right or isn't clean or doesn't have all these things right, you're going to lose that person straight away. And odds are they're never coming back. odds are they'll tell 10 other people. And then before you know it, you've actually ruined your opportunity to grow that business. And I think that was the first thing that probably Sam focused on. Was the first thing I focused on when I opened the gym was like, how can I make the most inviting space? How can I make a space that people want to stay in? How can I make a space that is clean or feels good and gives them the opportunity to be successful before I then market myself to bring people in? Because your best form of marketing when you start a business is word of mouth. So the people that are first initially coming, if they have an amazing experience, they're going to tell 10 other people. We're going to tell 10 other people. And that's how my business grew straight away, was word of mouth. I didn't even know what, social media was not a thing when we started our business. Like, it wasn't something we focused on at all. It was like, how can I create the best space? And then how can I get out into the community to draw more people in once I feel like that's a space that people want to train at? Or I believe that I'm giving the best training, or I believe that I'm giving the best programming, or whatever it is. Like, they should be here. So it was that focus first that I think grew the business. And then from there, it's just word of mouth and having a great experience that grows the business after that. And then it's the little things. It's like, what else can I do now? Because I've got it to a level that's successful. I've got it to a level where I'm making money. So how can I now make more money? Yeah,
it's funny you say that, because I was only just hearing it the other day that customer retention is a much more important metric sometimes than customer acquisition. And it's an expensive mistake to focus so much on acquisition and not focus on providing the service and retaining him and giving him
Correct. And that's like in the gym industry, if we're going to talk about that industry, it's like, it comes down to the trainers that you hire, their message and how they're talking to their customers and their clients. It comes down to the person behind that counter giving the greet. Is it genuine? Are they always saying goodbye when the people are leaving? Are they always saying hello when people are walking into the gym? And it's no different to our concept at Acai Brothers. The people behind the counter, I said it to the other day to our staff members at Patinia. I said, guys, it's like Moulin Rouge up there, right? You know, you are pretty much putting on a show for all of the customers that walk into this store. And it's so true, because it's so easy now for a customer to make a decision that Acai Brothers Patinia is not the place to go because I don't get the best service or the best experience. I might just go to the other retailer now. So like, these staff members now, they have to be on 100% of the time, from as soon as they open to as soon as we close. And that is something that we teach our staff members at all times. You are like a mini version of the Moulin Rouge.
We changed our entire model to literally put them on show. So we put our model, it went from like always having your back to the customer. And this is something we learned over time. We were so entrenched in the business and working in it every single day that it wasn't until the start of 2018, so only like 18 months ago, that we had a few staff in-house, because we were doing everything, myself and Sam, up until pretty much the start of 2017. And then my now wife came on board and started doing training. So when we opened stores up, she was training the stores. And we opened nearly 20 stores in 2017. And we're just like back to back to back to back. And there's only 3 of us. So you can imagine we're so entrenched in the business that until the start of 2018, when we had some money to invest in the people power, like, which is the most important thing I'm going to say to anyone, is when you can start to invest in people to help you, like, your business will change, astronomically. But when we had that opportunity, we stepped back and we looked at the business, and that's when we started to see things. We started to be like, you know what, we should have a bin there. Or like, you know what, why have we been doing this? Like, why did I have this like this? Like, I knew when I was working in the store last year, this wasn't working. Why didn't I change it? But you're in the motion. You got to keep moving. You got to keep moving. You got to keep opening these stores that you're like, I'll get to it later. I'll get to it later. But as soon as we stepped back, it was like, one thing was like, our backs were to the customer. And I was like, that's not inviting. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how are they going to communicate with people? How do people get the feeling when they walk in the store when they just see a back? Like, we want their faces. We want them smiling. We want them talking to the customer. And we want what we do, the main thing we sell, which is making bowls, to be on show. Because like, if we're going to say that we're the best at it, let's show people we're the best at it. Let's not go hide in the back of a kitchen and make something. Let's put them on show. But we also found that a lot of staff, before we flipped the model, were sort of hiding in the background too. And what should take 2 minutes to make or 3 minutes to make, if you're really like, when me and Sam get a bowl or my wife gets a bowl, it's like, it's quick. How freaking quick can I make this bowl? Like, every single, it doesn't matter if there's one person in the cafe, I'll make that bowl in 2 or 3 minutes, no matter what. I'll make that smoothie as quick as I can. But if it wasn't the same way when we looked at our staff, they would get that bowl, and because no one was watching them, it was like 5, 8 minutes. It didn't really matter, man. No one can see me. I'm just doing my thing back here. It's all good. But now we put them on show. It's like, they're watching you. So if you're just like, taking your time or cutting something slowly, everyone's watching you right now. like they're going to get annoyed with you, so let's hurry up. So that was a big thing that we changed.
Such a small pivot. It's such a small pivot, but the difference it makes is huge.
Massive.
Yeah, 1% is, I love it.
Because like you can actually educate the customer now in the bowl. It's like, you know, the reason why we put strawberries like this is because it looks like this. And the reason why we put
a story making an acai bowl.
Correct. Yeah. And like, because once again, and like we'll probably dive into a little bit later on, but the acai berry is not necessarily the most popular item in Australia right now. It's not mainstream. Right? So there's a lot of education that needs to happen still in terms of superfoods and the acai berry. So if we can actually talk to a customer, tell them why we're putting superfoods on top and the benefits of it, majority of the times they're going to come back and still ask for that again, which would be great.
Yep, absolutely. And I guess the next step in the journey is after your sort of gym ventures. I know it didn't end immediately, but how did you guys come back together and really get into the Acai Brothers and starting Acai Brothers?
It was a funny story. We had our partners at the time, and both of us were nearly in. At the time in which those relationships ended, mine ended a year before Sam, and his ended nearly exactly a year later at the exact same point. It was only 6 years in our relationship with this particular person. We started very young with them, and they, like, to be honest,
Different
as I
person.
said, different people, yeah, not the same person.
Let's make that clear.
Yeah, that's how we came together. No, we actually,
We really
it was,
are
these girlfriends were literally like, they were best friends nearly throughout the whole growing up. They used to go to Noosa every single year at Christmas time.
Elijah and Jordy, right?
No, there was two different girlfriends. Like, it's fine, we can mention them, that's all right. But they, beautiful people, and we used to go there every single year at Christmas time. And obviously, Sam started dating this particular girl at the time, and I was dating this other girl. And because we'd always be around them at Christmas time, we naturally started catching up at Christmas. And it was a couple of years we spent Christmas together again, and that's when we started to like, yo, haven't seen you in ages, man, what's going on? And we started talking about the gym industry, we started talking about what we're doing, and we started to build like a mutual relationship and a mutual respect for each other and what we were doing at the time. And I guess that constant time together then led to then outside of Christmas time, spending some time together. And it was one New Year's, we were sitting down, and it was really, really early days. There was like, literally, like, you started to see a couple of bowls popping up, and we had more of our clients were coming into the gym, and they started asking about, have you heard about acai? And we used to give like nutritional advice and things like that. Like, it wasn't our background, but we'd give what we can give. But at the same time, we started hearing more about superfoods. So naturally, you start to like delve into what the heck is superfoods now? I've got to learn about this. There's something coming up. People are eating it. The more we started researching it, the more we started to learn, like, wow, like, no one's doing this, but there's a lot of benefit to doing this. And there's a massive hole in the market, because anyone at that potential point in time that was selling a bowl, just a random cafe, people were driving like 40 minutes out of the Redlands to go get a bowl. And we're like, hang on, like, we know everyone here. We got successful gyms, like, we grew up here. Why are we getting all these people that are like locals of this community leaving our community to go spend some money somewhere else? Let's like get them spending money back in the community again, like where they grew up, and like let's try to bring something to them. And it was, as I said, it was New Year's, and we're sitting down talking about superfood, and then we're like let's do a superfood bar together.
I remember like we were doing some shots, and we're like, and like every
it's all right. We
never
still drink.
We're doing
It's all right.
shots. That's how it was
It's
born.
New Year's.
every shot, the idea got better,
Yeah.
sexier. We're just like, man, this sounds amazing. Let's do it. Let's put them everywhere. Let's put them in gyms. Let's put them all around the world.
It's got to be Campbell's soup, man. Our brand's got to be Campbell's soup. Like, that's how we used to compare it to Campbell's soup. Like, we're going to be as well known as Campbell's soup. Like, that was like our goal. Like, and we believe that.
funny.
We believe that.
And then I think, we actually sort of went like, we didn't part ways at all, but we sort of just didn't talk about the idea for around a couple of months. I reckon about 3 months.
Yeah.
Really?
I think we were both thinking about it, and I was like, it was
brewing.
But we were still pretty entrenched in the gym industry. So it was like, when am I going to have the time to be able to dive into something else? And then it was like the month of April, and we both sort of caught up, and we looked at each other and we're like, dude, we need to make a call. Are we going to do this, or are we not going to do this? Because like, it sounds good, but I mean, it's only an idea until we execute something, right?
It's just a cafe. Like, we can do this. Like, easy.
Anyway, so we ended up making a call, and we shook on it, and we said, all right, let's do it. Let's start brainstorming a few things.
So you made a decision to begin
planning. Yeah, so we had no planning. It was purely idea and concept at this stage. And it was the month of April. I remember it plain as day. We literally caught up, and we just said, let's just go for it. What's the worst that could happen?
Every single day, let's catch up. Let's train together first, because that was like our foundation for everything. Like, let's train together, let's feel good, because that's what we know. And then let's sit down after, and we'll just start brainstorming every single day, like every day.
Yeah. And how old are you both at the time that this is sort of just starting to transpire?
24?
25. I'm a year older than
24,
Sam.
yeah.
So yeah, I was 25 at the time.
We were like, remember,
Nearly 25.
The gym industry and the hospitality industry, it's like chalk and cheese, yin and yang, Macca's in an acai bowl. Like they're so different, right? And so like we had no idea. So we were like calling competitors and finding out what sort of equipment they had. Every time we'd go to a juice bar or whatever, we would go behind the counter and take photos and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it was funny, man. Like we were talking about, okay, cool. Like this is the concept. What equipment? Where do you get equipment from? Like, where do I get blenders from? And I was like, what blender do I get? Like, what blends aside? And then we'd like ring up competitors who were making bowls, and we'd be like, look, we've just started making like smoothies at home, and like we want to make this acai at home, good. And my blender, it just keeps breaking. Like, it's just not a commercial blender. Like, do you have an idea of like what commercial blender we should get? Because we want to make them like every day, like for myself, and I just need something. They're like, yeah, I'll go check what our blenders are. And they're like, yeah, it's a Vitamix. It's a Vitamix. So I was like, Vitamix, cool. I'll have a look, thanks. And then we're like, why don't we say like Vitamix? That's literally how we learned what equipment
we should have and what the concept should look like and things like that.
So how long were you guys homies before, after you came back together, how long were you guys friends before you started embarking on this journey together?
6 months probably.
6 months? Yeah, like a solid 6 months.
Was it enough?
Yeah.
Obviously it was enough to know you were both the right fit for each other. How did you know?
Once again, it's like that.
It's that feeling.
That's like, it's just the feeling. It really is. Like you don't go, are you right for me?
So let's draw it up.
Yeah. Let's do a timeline.
Pros and cons.
Yeah.
So I made a graph.
You've got a man bun and I don't.
Perfect.
So like this isn't gonna work. But like, so it's like that feeling that you get when you see someone. It's the intuition, the gut.
I think it was just the passion. You know what I mean? Like I just saw that like when I got excited about the idea, he got excited about the idea. And it was just like, if he's that excited, I'm this excited, and we've been successful in the past. It's like everyone who's probably successful in business, I think is pretty naive to the fact of how hard business actually is. But that's not a bad thing because like that gets you started. Everyone who knows the risks, like this is what we always have this conversation, and it's really funny that Sam came from like a business university degree because they tell you all the bad things that happen in business. You know what I mean? If you sat down and you weighed up all the bad things that happen in business, why the heck would you start a business? Because you're like, man, like that's ridiculous. I'd never want that to happen to myself. But when you're naive to the fact and you're just so confident that like I can make anything work now, like that sometimes gets you started, and then you just have to roll with the punches because like business is tough.
Dude, I remember when we were trying to work out like our break-even point, and it was like $686.66, like something ridiculous. It's like, wow, we need to sell that many products to just break even. That is so scary. When you're not coming from the hospitality industry, that is quite a scary figure. But still, we never had the doubt that we wouldn't be able to sell $600 worth of stock during one day of trade.
Yeah.
So
interesting. And I guess the next step really is that Nando's meeting that's so infamous now.
Yeah.
Tell me that. I love how cheeky Nando's gave birth to such an incredible company.
We're literally, we love Nando's, man. Like Nando's was so big at the time.
Shout out to Nando's.
Yeah, shout out to Nando's. Like, chicken pitas.
Love the superfood salad.
Yeah, superfood salad's good. We were up at Wellington Point and we were sitting at the Nando's at Wellington Point, and at this point we had been like discussing for ages. Like we pretty much had come up with the concept of what it would look like, had some of the equipment there, had even started like buying some of the equipment to play with it and things like that with whatever money that we had. And we're sitting there and we're like, okay, well, like we just really need a name. Like we really need a name. And before we went to Nando's, I'd called Sam. We had this other, it was like 500 down was our name, and I did the logo up and I was like, yeah, this is it, 500 down. Everything on the menu is going to be below 500 calories. It's going to make sense. Everyone's going to get this.
Wow,
you know
so it
what
wasn't Acai Brothers.
No, this was like our first initial idea. It was like 500 down.
It was 500
yeah,
down
500 down.
purple.
It was purple.
Interesting.
And I had this like, I don't know, this was like a light bulb moment when I was driving the car one day, and I was like, brothers, me and Sam always call each other brothers. And I was like, every big business has like, Warner Brothers, like, oh, they have brothers in it. And I was like, acai is what we do. Acai Brothers. I was like, dude, that sounds so freaking awesome. I rang Sam, like, dude, I have the name. It's called Acai Brothers. What do you think? And he goes, that is such a boss name. And then we let's go to Nando's. Let's go get some food. And we went to Nando's. We sat down and we talked about Acai Brothers. Like, that is the name. We have the name now. We just need a logo. Yeah. And we started looking up things. I started drawing things. And like, as I said, I came from an artsy background. So I naturally would just draw things. That's how I came up with my other logos and things like that. And then we had a sign writer at the time that I'd use for my gym. I was like, I'll just send this over, like what we've done, which is pretty much the logo. Let's get her to make it look good. And within like 2 hours, she had us a logo back. I think we were still sitting at Nando's at the time talking about it.
Wow.
And she had the logo back to us, and we looked at it and we were like, we have the name, we have the logo, which is still the same logo as it is today. what the heck? We just need a lease. We just need a lease. Like, yeah, menu was still not on our mind yet. We're just like,
That's a whole different story.
We'll get into it. We'll get there. We're just like, we just need a lease. And we're sitting in Nando's and we like look out to the left side of like as we're sitting at the table, and there's literally like this tiny little store that has never been leased, and it has full lease on the sign. And I was looking at it and I'm like, Nathan, I know that real estate agent. That's the guy that actually did all the leasing for my gym. Like, I know this guy. I got his number in my phone. I'll just call him right now. Called him up. I said, how much? And we're talking to him on the phone. And we negotiated then and there. We actually signed the lease that day. We had transferred everything over. And within like 24 hours, 48 hours, we had keys to the site. And we're like, got a name, got a logo, got a lease.
Let's go.
We got to do it. Let's do it. And that's literally
There was no backing out.
There was no backing out there.
Yeah. So you're pretty much putting a fish in deep water and going, good luck. Like really good luck.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what we were. We were so out of our depth. Like it was out of control, but we had no other way. We could not back out.
Still so naive. Still so naive at the time. If this is easy, it's all
But
good.
it's best because it got you started.
Yeah.
It did.
You started.
Exactly.
Now, in terms of upfront investment, I mean, obviously you had to pay for the lease. I heard it was about 10 G's each that you guys went into originally with.
No, it was actually about 45 to 50
Yeah, nearly
each.
50 each to get the store built and everything as well to get the fit out.
So you had like bank guarantees, legal setup, accounting setup, all the upfront stock, the sampling ingredients to pay the person who helped us with the menu, to buy all the equipment, fit out. Yeah, it was about 100 to 120.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
All up, yeah.
And I mean, to give perspective to everyone who's watching, I mean, how much of a big deal is 45, 50 G's to Ben and Sam at the time? Is that
20,
like,
24. Both like pretty much 24 at the time.
Yeah.
like that's a lot of money.
That was
lot.
pretty
I mean,
much all the savings that we had from our businesses. You know what I mean?
Everything that we earned from the gym industry went straight into Acai Brothers. So
you're all in.
we're all in, mate. And like at the end of the day, if Acai Brothers didn't do well, then there would have been some massive questions above our head in terms of what we were going to do financially. So, yeah, large investment, especially for a young person who's never really dived into the hospitality industry before.
Yeah, you're going in.
So not only are you challenging your financial status, but you're also challenging your mental status and your experience in a certain industry. So you got a couple of big challenges there that you had to deal with. And
that was our cash too. Like that wasn't a loan.
That wasn't a loan or a credit card.
That was like that's our money. So when we went in, we had no debt. You know what I mean? Which was always a big bonus, but it was also like, but we have no money.
It was also a burden.
You know what I mean?
Guess what? We had no cash flow.
And
to keep us afloat, right?
No cash flow, big upfront investment, lump sum. I mean, are you guys almost thinking like, shit, how do I pay my rent next week?
Well, at the end of the day, if
work in
it
the
did
gym.
not work, once again,
that's
like,
the boat you're in.
Yeah, once again, we were so naive, it just had to work. And so I remember it plain as day, like our opening day, was lines that were like 80 meters long. And this was back when we had no systems and procedures. And thank goodness that first 2 weeks of trade were out of this world. Like they were phenomenal. And that obviously gave us the confidence to really love and appreciate the money that we invested and to stay positive and keep pursuing. So
awesome. And I guess so few people would even have the balls to sit down and map something out properly and make a business plan or create a logo or create a name. I guess even fewer get to that point, and then less people then again would execute against the plan they make. Obviously you guys went all in. How quick was it from sitting down at Nando's, coming up with an idea, making things happen, obviously get the lease started, and really just going all in? Like what is the next day, the next week looking like?
As soon as we signed the lease, it was all in.
From April to October, that was the time frame. We opened in October 2014, and we really shook hands on it in April. But I remember it even when it came to like the product development and the menu development. Once again, I always go back to it, like that yin and yang moment, like going from the fitness industry to the hospitality industry. Honestly, it is so different. I can't stress how different that is.
Gym industry
for any
is
young
so
people
easy,
out there or
yeah.
anyone who want to change industries, honestly, like we have a great story for you, and it's certainly worthwhile listening to, because we can also teach you how to adapt to a certain industry. But one of my clients at the time, she knew a person called Michelle Kerisks, and she was actually really specialized in like raw foods, and she was based in Thailand. And she was actually in Brisbane at the time, and we reached out to her and we said, hey, we're looking at doing like an acai bar, superfood bar. Can you help us out with a menu? Anyway, she was all over it.
Wow,
And,
so that's how you solve that problem.
So we actually solved that problem, because once again, we had no idea. So we didn't know what ingredients mixed with what would taste good for a customer. You know, because at the end of the day,
what was nutritionally beneficial as well.
Correct. And you know, I remember it plain as day. Like we went to my nan and granddad's house, and we were downstairs in the kitchen. We invited Ben's parents, my parents, one of my other good friends, one of Benny's good friends, and she was developing some of the menu items, and we're doing some taste testers.
So we were trying to then make the items.
Yeah.
We'd never been in a kitchen. Like, just
And I remember it plain as day, man, like my mate Mitch, he knew I came from gym industry because he was doing the same thing, and he sipped it and he goes, "Why are you leaving the gym industry?"
literally. Literally.
What are you doing, dude? Like, you're so comfortable at Snap. Why are you doing this? And it was like, no, man, we know that this is going to work.
Yeah. All of it at the time, like, and as I said, like, family's always been supported, but they've seen how successful we've been in the gym industry. They're just like, guys, like, just stick to what you're doing. You're doing so well. Like, at the time, 24, we're making 150, 200 grand a year, you know what I mean? Like, obviously there's tax and other things, but it's not net. But at the same time, we're turning over a good amount of money personally. That why are you, like, at 24, no 24 is going to walk away from that. But now you're stepping into something where you now have no money in the bank. You're now splitting your time across 2 different businesses and into something you have no idea about, that you're not sure even works, and no one even knows what you're selling. No one knows this product at all. Like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
so you guys are taking a big risk. You were doing well, and
risk.
it's a big risk.
Yeah, definitely. But even like when we had this cold press juicer, and she was cold press juicing all of these amazing juices that we wanted to put on our menu, and we're like, we have to cold press juice all these ingredients, and each juice took like 8 minutes because it was such a slow cold press juicer, and we're like, man, customers are going to hate us because it's going to take like 12 to 15 minutes for them to get a juice because we're backed up in juice orders. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And it was always like, shoddy not juicer, shoddy not juicer.
Neither of us wanted to do the juicer,
like, you're on juicer today.
You're going to be the one that's hated.
Yeah, it was just like such a huge learning curve in terms of like using different types of equipment and changing that mindset to love the hospitality industry, and how can you just appreciate this industry a little bit more and learn about it a lot, and find out a bit more about what ingredients work with what, and completely disregard our parents and our friends' comments about this industry itself, and truly just stick to your intuition and know that what you're going to do is right.
A lot of big problems, just trying to think about it logically. If I put myself in your shoes, okay, I got a lease, I got a logo, I got the foundation going really, but like, you don't have a product yet, so you obviously made a menu, but you need ingredients to make that menu work. I mean, obviously you were all organic in the beginning. Obviously there's this hilarious banana story and that sort of thing. Yeah. Who was the first, how do you know who to call first about how to get acai or how to get bananas? Or
Google. And Michelle helped us a little bit as well.
Michelle helped us a lot.
She knew
she
about
was
the
a blessing,
more
mate.
than us.
Yeah, right.
She actually, on our first menu, she had Michelle Kerrick's right at the bottom of it, and it was great. Like,
we said we wanted to do that for her.
She deserved it, man, because at the end of the day, it was her menu. Like, she created that, and to this day, like, thank you to her. Yeah, it's awesome. She taught us a lot about superfoods and about this industry that we are in right now. Yeah.
Amazing. And I guess on the illegal accounting, all that side of things, how quickly did you guys, or how early on did that have to be addressed?
No legal, and my mum did the accounting and bookkeeping.
Yeah.
How good.
And if I can give anyone advice in business, honestly, you need a good lawyer who trusts you, who you trust them, who can see your vision, who understands what you're going to go through over the next 3 to 5 years, cares about, there's more than just a transaction, and you need an amazing accountant to be able to support you financially, give you the right advice, the right considerations, the right recommendations, you name it. If you have that, you'll do okay.
Like, if we start a business today, they're the first things we actually set up. You know what I mean? Like, we get the structure set, like we set our company up, like we set the financial model up. We do cash flows. We start to look at things and go, okay, well, is this going to work, or what's this going to look like? We weren't doing that back then because we didn't know any better. Plus, you come from the gym industry where there's like one thing you have to worry about, and that's like your rent or your electricity bill. The rest is your time. You come into the hospitality industry and there's like operating costs, there's cost of goods, like there's staff labor, there's like super and all these other things, and BAS, and like, you're buying fresh product that doesn't have GST attached, so you're paying GST at the end of the product. We had no idea that was the case until the BAS bill rolled in after like the first month.
We got our first BAS bill, and
we're like, what is BAS?
BAS. We both looked at fish. We both looked at each other and we're like, all right, man, we've got to close the doors because like this BAS bill is huge. It is huge because we didn't put any money aside for BAS.
So obviously got all this going on. At the same time, you're still involved in your gyms?
Yeah, we had that for about a year and a half in.
Yeah, it was December, both of us nearly December 2016. It was probably actually even, about a year, nearly a year and a half.
Yeah, a year and a half in. So
of just constantly working our butts off. Yeah. Actually, no, it's nearly 2 years.
That's nearly 2 years.
Two and a half years nearly. So it was like, if I ran down the day of a life, in owning Acai Brothers while still having our gyms.
Yeah,
I would
it
like
sounds
literally,
sexy.
I had, my girlfriend at the time lived on the Gold Coast, so I'd get up in the morning at 3 a.m, I'd have a shower, I'd leave the house by like 3:30, I'd drive from the coast into Capalaba, I'd get there by like 4:30ish to open the doors by 5 a.m, run the first couple of classes, do my PTs, I'd be up at the shop to open the doors at 7 o'clock for like a 7:30, 8 o'clock open. I'd then work there until lunchtime. Sam would have done the same thing at his gym. He taps in at lunchtime.
Wow.
I then go straight back to the gym. I quickly eat at the gym because mum would bring me lunch. I'd then go straight back into training. I'd train all the way to 10 o'clock at night. Sam would work at the store till like 4 o'clock, close the store by 5. He'd go back to the gym. He'd work till 10 o'clock at night.
I'd have to study.
Exactly. And then we'd be like,
Yeah, 'cause you're doing your
Exactly. And then I'd drive back to the Gold Coast to try to spend an hour with my partner at the time to try to give us some time.
Who, what,
And
when,
before-
why, and how?
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Yeah, go to bed. Yeah. Do you have dinner? Like, I'm just really hungry. And then did that every single day, except for we decided on Saturday and Sunday that Sam would do, I'd do Saturdays and Sam would work Sundays. So we'd have one day off to spend, and I guarantee like that was the reason that our relationships broke down, because on that one day off, it was like, can I just lie on the couch for a little bit and just like do nothing? Like, please leave me alone. And like, and that's something that we always said, like we gave up, and like we are so appreciative of those relationships, and they taught us so much, and the people are so beautiful, and we, you know, there's so much of us, it's like, you know, I'm so sorry for like, you know, neglecting you a little bit, but we were just so entrenched and so dedicated to that, you know, as I said, now with our relationships, we found like two very supportive people that I think knew what they were coming into. So it's a much better position for us right now.
I think they're our biggest fans.
Yeah.
Like they really
100%.
are. And like I know we're their biggest fans as well. And I think that's so important to find that right partner when you are on this incredible journey of business, because that shit ain't easy at all. And it's always challenging. And it's this like incredible roller coaster, emotional roller coaster. And just like, if you can find that right partner who gets it and who is your biggest fan, then you've hit it. You've done well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get into it a bit later, but we are pretty pressed for time. But I mean, that was one of my biggest questions, because I'm like, you guys are at that time running two businesses. You know, you're back to back all day, like you just said, Ben. That day is the most hectic day I've ever heard in my life, and you're still making time for a relationship. I mean, do you think a partner for an entrepreneur has to be a different type of person to a partner for someone who's working, for example, a 9 to 5? Like, do they have to appreciate the fact that you don't have that much time?
Personally, I truly do. I think someone who is in business and who is wanting to grow around the world and create these amazing concepts and have these incredible visions, that's a different type of person, which I think requires a different type of partner. If I can talk about my fiance Liz, she just gets it. She knows that I don't work, you know, a 9 to 5 job, right? You know, I'm at the office at 7:30 and I don't ever really clock off. As much as we leave the office at Bulimba at 5 p.m, you know, when it's your own baby, you still always are working on the brand. And so I think it does require a different type of partner. I truly do.
We were saying, like, we had a men's event, and one of the points I brought up was like, you can only, like, there's a saying that you can only really do two things great in your life. You know, you might choose one to be business, one to be your relationships or your family. You might be like business and health and fitness. And then, you know, some of the really talented people can maybe do 3 things really, really well. But at the end of the day, there's not many people who can do 4 or 5 or 6. That's just, you got to dedicate your time to those things that you really, really believe in. At the time, we were trying to do 2 businesses, trying to look after our health and fitness, which has always been an important part of our life. And we're trying to have a relationship that worked as well. Like, that's nearly 4 things. Like, it just wasn't going to work when you look back at it today. And that's one big thing that we always say is that, like, right now we try to entrench ourselves in our business and our health and our fitness, and our relationships are always at the top of the tree for us. We try to make them at the top, but the other half that's met with us now is we've got a really supportive, understanding partner that sort of makes up for that maybe 50% that we can't always give them because we are so entrenched in the other things. So you definitely need a different type of person that understands you, and you know, sometimes they're willing to put their dreams or their things aside for you, and that's just like not many people are willing to do that, especially women these days. And like they're so amazing, so driven people that they want to achieve and want to be successful just like we do, and that's an amazing trait to have. But sometimes it's hard for those people to then go like, well, I really want to support this person as well, and trying to find that balance is really, really hard. So it's definitely a different person sometimes that has to give up a lot to sometimes, you know, be there for us, because we need them emotionally, like physically, like everything. They need to be there for us because like we're going through so many ups and downs. And you know, thank God that they're both very driven individuals themselves. But they always.
I call Liz like my scapegoat.
Yeah.
Like I come home, man, I'm just like, yo.
I gotta take it.
And like it's like I call it escapism. Like, you know, when you watch a movie, yeah, she's like that scapegoat, man. Like she just makes me not think about anything. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Very special.
One thing you said that was really interesting, Ben, is that you can only do, you know, two things really well. And then when you get to 3 and 4, the wheels are going to start falling off somewhere. If you're practically thinking, let's just say you're 24, like you guys were, and you have a 9 to 5, right? And you have this amazing idea like you both had. You had the ambition, you have the hard work, you have the tools to make it work. But you have that, maybe you're studying a degree as well, and you've got all these things going on. What advice would you have to someone who is trying to transition? I mean, how do you manage that all? Like, how do you do it? How do you pull it off?
I don't think you can ever really manage it. As I said, like you can manage it, but you're never going to be 100% successful in one thing. Like you can't just be a jack of all. They say like, you know, a jack of all trades, but a master of none. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's where you need to sit back and you need to look at yourself and you need to go, okay, well, what actually means something to me right now in my life? Like you talked about how you sat back and you said, you know what, university isn't the right thing for me. I want to do these things, and it's been a burning desire inside of me, and I'm going to go do this. And that leads to passion. That leads to like that effect of like true happiness. And what's the word? What we always say that you're always looking for fulfillment. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
I
you're always
the
looking
word
for that.
content.
Yeah, and contentment. You know what I mean?
Me,
Like,
yeah.
so I think that you've got to sit back and you've got to weigh up and look at the things that really mean the most to you and go get them, because it is really, really, really hard, like mentally. That's why there's a lot of men, a lot of women that struggle for mental health, because I think that they've got so much on their plate. They're thinking of so many things. They're trying to be the best at everything. They're trying to support all these network and all these family and all these kids, and they're trying to do all these things. No one can do that for a long period of time. So something's going to come off. Something bad's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for me personally, it's like that word of sacrifice. Yeah. It's a big word. And at the time of Acai Brothers, it's like, you can't be 100% in everything. We've already acknowledged that today, right? But there are a couple of things that you can be. Family, so you've got business, you've got your relationship, then you've got family, then you've got your social life. Right now, it's hard to win in all of those areas, right? You just can't. And so one thing that I have learned is just to have the conversation with those family members or that social group or your partner or whatever it might be, and just be like, hey, I'm going to let you know that over the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to be quite hard. I'm not going to be able to come to every family event. I'm not going to be able to come to every social occasion. I'm just not going to be able to. You're preempting this and you're letting them know with full transparency that you are about to go on this journey that you don't even know what it's going to be like, but you're about to embark it. And so that word of sacrifice, you can't be 100% in everything. There are times where you have to sacrifice family occasions, social occasions, partner occasions, etc., etc. But that is okay as long as everyone is on the same table and you're completely honest with them.
Communication, like just letting people know.
That's so fascinating. I've never really heard that before. So you preempted, guys, this is how it's going to be for the...
My mum, man, I love her, but she calls me at the work. She's probably called me like four times today.
I ain't got time.
Yeah, but like, honestly, and like, and she wants to do family occasions there and blah, 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 all the time. And it's like, I love you. But I can't, like I physically can't, like I've got to go to Sydney or Melbourne or WA or America or whatever it might be. And it's that sacrifice. And it's like, I met a couple of young guys the other day and they're like, man, you know, I work 9 to 5 and then I want to do work at night time and in the mornings before I go to work and stuff like this. And I want to grind and all of this, but my family keep telling me no, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, well, if you want to do that and it's a priority for you to do that and you love doing that, then do it. And tell your family, hey, this is what I actually love doing. So I won't be able to come to every family event because this is what I love doing. And it's that word of sacrifice that I think we really need to look at. It's like, it's actually okay not to go to family events and social occasions and all of these things because you are embarking on what you want to do personally.
I'm actually going to implement that straight away because like my dad's like every week or every 2 weeks, come over for dinner on a Sunday night. And I'm like, man, I've got things I've got to do. Like I can't keep doing that. So have the conversations with, the people that you care about in your life. Just let them know, just because I'm spending less time doesn't mean I care less. It's just I'm focusing on what I'm focusing on.
If you could see your parents every day, you would. If you could see your mates every day, you would.
Yeah. At the end of the day, these people just want you to be happy. So if that's making you happy, and that's what you just need to tell them is like, this actually makes me happy. This makes me fulfilled. This gives me all those things that I'm chasing right now. Do you want me to come on a Sunday night and be grumpy? Like, or be overtired or be lying on your couch because like I can't give you anything? Like, let me know because I'll try to do that, but it's not going to make me happy. You know what I mean? And I think at the end of the day, as I said, like our parents have always, to the core of them, just wanted us to be happy. And I think they've become so understanding of the fact. The same with our relationships. Like we knew what our old relationship was, you know, where we went wrong and the things that, you know, we learned from that. I think that we implemented straight away. We were so upfront with the people that we met and we just said like, just so you know, like next 5 years, like I can't promise you anything. Like it's going to be crazy. I will give you everything that I can give you because I care about you. But at the same time, there'll be times where maybe you'll get upset at me or maybe you'll feel left out or maybe that, you know, I'm not giving you the attention that you need. But it's only because like I've got this thing that truly makes us happy and that we're driven for as well. And they just understood the fact. They just straight away, they knew that, you know, that's what we're in for, then that's what we're in for.
It's hugely important. Now guys, there is just so much I want to get into, but we just don't have the time. So I guess just to fast forward the journey a little bit, because I really want to go end to end with this Acai Bros story. So I guess let's take it to a point where you've been in business for the year, you've sat down at your grandparents' house, you've had the conversation about COGS, SOPs, that sort of thing. You got your first inquiry. It's TJ, right? I think.
Yeah. So he was actually a customer's nephew, cousin, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, he walked something. I don't know.
He's
Uncle,
related
cousin, who knows? Yeah. But anyway, he walked into the store and he was like, actually no, sorry. His friend at the time, or cousin, uncle, whatever it might be, he said at the time, hey, my friend is looking at opening up this brand, right? And it's a well-established brand right now. And would he be okay to actually, he's from Sydney, would it be okay if he flew up to Brisbane and spent a week with you guys? And we're like...
It was a similar concept.
It was not
the same concept. It was similar, like in the fact that it was still in the food realm and it was still in the health realm.
And we're like, oh, that sounds a bit weird because like, what happens if he just steals all of our systems and procedures?
Not that we really had that.
We had nothing, but like we wanted to feel like we did.
Yeah. We had something to steal.
But he had about 100 kilos of bananas to steal, but that was about it. But anyway, it was like, oh, you know, what? It's not going to hurt. Anyway, so he came and he spent the week with us and he spent this time with our staff members, spent time with Ben and I. And then by the end of that week of training and understanding the brand and the systems and procedures and the product that we're in and the industry that we're in, that Friday afternoon, we're just sitting like this and he's like, hey, how much to buy in a Acai Brothers store? And I was like, what? How much to buy in a Acai Brothers store?
What's your franchise cost?
And we're like, what does your franchise cost? And we're like,
what did you say? French fries?
No, where is this in health?
And it was at that moment we're like, wow. And I remember replying, I said, to be completely honest, we've never really thought about expanding, but we will come back to you within 7 days with a figure and we'll go from there. Anyway, at the time, my good friend, he referred us to a solicitor who's been tremendous this whole time.
Cameron, right?
Cameron, yeah, he's absolutely amazing and very good friend of ours. He said, look, you know, there's two routes you can go. One is the licensing route and two is the franchising route. Franchising is about 35 grand and licensing is about 4.5, 5 grand to set up. We're like, we'll probably go with licensing.
Yeah. Because I was going to ask you, like, for the first 8 stores, it was obviously licensing.
Yeah. Why was because one,
cheaper.
Cost, two, it was a great way to expand the brand quickly. It was great for cash flow as well for us. 3, it was 4, it was like, you can have our brand, you can sort of tweak it a little bit, but you're not as strict as a franchise. So like as a franchise, we tell you to wear black and white. As a license, you can be a little bit more flexible in that regard. And so because Benny and I didn't come from franchising, we're like, well, we might as well license it out and just see where we can take this.
Yeah, franchising, there's a lot of systems, a lot of procedures. You have to supply them every single thing to make their business successful. And you have to, you know, nearly guarantee that person's success by going, hey, like, here's the model, implement it and you'll be successful. But we didn't have any of that stuff. Like,
so we had to make it.
Well, exactly. But with the licensing, we didn't necessarily have to make it because all we had to do was give them, you know, 2 of the 3 things or 3 of the 4 things. And then that was like, here's all our brand, here's our IP, here's what we do know in terms of our menu and our recipes and everything, but we don't necessarily have all the systems and stuff that are going to make you successful just yet. So go run your own business. And from you, it was like pretty much a case study into what we can do to make the next stores better. And that's sort of why we went the licensing route. We learned it was an opportunity to not be legally bound to the agreement of a franchise, but at the same time still grow like a franchising, get the ability to build our brand and get it out there.
And because our interest started getting more and more and more, the more stores that we opened, the higher the interest it got, which was great. And the lawyer at the time was like, boys, it's probably best to franchise now. Purely for the fact that if you have like 50 stores and you need to flip 50 licenses over to 50 franchises, that's almost a nightmare.
Yeah.
And it's also not cheap.
Yeah.
So he's like, what I'll do is let's start moving to franchising. We'll start setting up all the legalities for you and we can put that 35 grand on a payment plan. So he was very lenient in that regard, which is terrific. So, we paid X amount per quarter and we started chipping away at this franchising agreement side and the code of conduct and the disclosure documents and all of this. And we started learning a bit more about franchising. And then from the 6th store on, we started franchising. And it was at that point that we've never looked back. So.
And was the plan always to do that? Like, I guess in my head, not knowing anything from the outside, I'm like, why don't you just own all the stores and you make all the money?
Well, that was always the first thought. Like when we first opened Acai Brothers, like before we even opened the store, we were like, we're going to be a global brand. That's why we always compared ourselves to Campbell. So everyone's going to know us. We had that dream and that feeling that we were going to do that. We didn't know how hard that was going to be. And even if, there's like 2 or 3% of like businesses that become a successful franchise and be able to open up multi-sites. Like we didn't know that was the, where we were heading. Like, you know what I mean? So until we started licensing and we started to see the interest in the brand, that's when we actually started to see that like, wow, like this is a really interesting way of rolling out stores. It gives us the cash flow to be able to grow more and put more money into the business without, having to try to run multiple stores. And one of the biggest deciding factors was we saw when we were running our gyms at the same time we were running Acai Brothers, we saw that, we started to lose the feeling that our gyms used to have because we just weren't in there as much. That's why, back to the point where I said that people were starting to come in for us when we owned those gyms, and that's why we were successful. As soon as we pulled ourselves out of those positions, you started to see the drop off because we weren't in there and they didn't have that feeling or that atmosphere anymore. And we started to learn that, wow, we're in Acai Brothers now and all these people are coming to Acai Brothers, and most times it's for me and Sam to come chat, come hang out. They're friends of ours or they know us or they want to see us and hang in the store and they get that feeling. So we started to realize, wow, if we try to open up like 10 of these, there's not 10 Ben and Sam's that we can just sit in every single store. Like we're going to struggle. So franchising became an interesting route because we're like, hang on, we've got someone who's like invested in this business that actually cares about it as well because they've got money on the table, but we could train them up to become the next Ben and Sam. And then that way we've got Ben and Sam in every single location because people then start to come to them, for them. And that's where the videos and everything started to come around, is like putting that person at the forefront of the brand.
The thing that I love about franchising is that these franchisees, they're like mini pop stars in their local area. Like you walk around with these franchisees at like Victoria Point or Paddington or whatever it might be, and they're like, yo, and like to all of the local businesses, to all the school teachers in the local area, and like, that is so cool to see. Like because they have skin in the game, like back in the, like when I spoke about the gym, because I was managing it and I had skin in the game, it was like chalk and cheese. It was amazing, right? Because you're going to make sure that it does well. It's the same thing in franchising. They have skin in the game, which means they will have that driving force to make it work.
And I guess you guys figured out pretty quick. I mean, even from that, before you launch video where you guys, like bang, and you're like, you're in the raw.
In the raw.
There's a funny story about how you guys nearly didn't post that, but we just don't have time today.
That's all right.
But obviously you figured out that personal brand and attaching a personal brand to a store and being entrenched in the community is so important for the success of the brand. Because obviously Wellington Point came about because it was a geography-based gap in the market. They're driving 30 and 40 minutes. But if you open up a Vicky Point store and one around the corner as well, it's no longer a geography-based gap. You have to have a different point of difference, and you guys figured out that's community and having many celebrities running these stores.
Honestly, like our brand is based off our franchisees diving into their local area. Like it really, really is.
Practically, how do you do that? How do you do that?
Like, it's establishing relationships with Pilates studios, yoga studios, schools, councils. It might be gyms in the local area as well. It's like that B2B community-based driven marketing that makes those stores successful. And if I was to throw a blanket over our whole franchise network and to divide it into the really successful stores and the stores that still need a little bit of work, the stores that are really successful, they're the ones who dive into their local community on a week-to-week basis and truly market their brand on a local level.
A lot of people just like expect to stand behind a counter and think that everyone's just going to walk in their doors, and like that's fantastic. It's a great dream to have, but it's not how business works. Regardless of how strong the brand is, you got to give people a reason to come in most times, and that's what these stores have to do, and that's what we learned straight away. Is like they've got to get out there, they've got to build these relationships, because if you have a strong relationship with someone, like they nearly feel obliged to come in. And when they feel obliged to come in, then they enjoy the experience, and then they try to make that a habit. And they're the regulars. That's what we talked about before as well. Like that's your bread and butter, is the people that come in constantly, because when it's cold and no one wants to eat acai or whatever it is, those people still come in no matter what. And that's where you make your bread and butter, and they're the people you got to really look after. And then hopefully if you market the store really, really well, more people will start to come in and start to build that trend. But it's going to start with you getting out from behind the counter. Like
And
you
making
can't,
those relationships.
Oh yeah.
Now, I was at Victoria Point the other day, and Amy, our franchisee, she knew every single customer's name.
It's just, hey Joe.
There is
hey,
a reason
Amy.
why those customers go down to that store, and it's not just because of the product. It's because of Amy.
Yeah, point of difference.
Yeah, point of difference.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's so many more nuances I wish I could get into, but obviously we're quite restricted. I guess paint me the picture. What is the business looking like today? Walk me through the numbers. You know, how many stores? You know, staff. I know you have 2 CEOs now, which was a big move. Walk me through what it's looking like today, in a nutshell.
Yeah, look, I guess to cut a long story short, like last year was a really challenging year for us. We had to close down a few stores just because, you know, the area mightn't have been right, or the individual mightn't have been right, or whatever that might be. There was reasons behind the closures, and that was quite a huge learning curve for us. You know, to shut down stores, to debrand our stores, etc. Like that's quite a challenging thing when you've created a brand from blood, sweat, and tears, and you see just like stores just shut. It's really interesting, like that mindset perspective, and that's probably a whole separate conversation. But so last year was challenging in terms of that regard. So right now we've got 22 stores around the country: WA, Sydney, Melbourne, Queensland. We're about to embark in ACT. So more stores in WA and Melbourne and Sydney, which is quite exciting. Yeah, very exciting. And so we're on a bit of a growth curve right now. Some of our key focuses over the next sort of like 12 to 18 months is certainly growth, but not necessarily just growth. It's also providing the utmost support to our franchisees more than any other franchise. Yep. Making sure that we can turn them into multi-site owners. So how does one store owner turn into 2, 3, 4 store owners? Because that's really powerful. And also product development. Product development, how do we stay ahead of the crowd? How do we completely challenge this superfood industry? How do we challenge this vegan-friendly industry? And how do we create something so different that is out of the norm with Acai Brothers branding on it?
Yeah, I think what we learn is like not everyone can be successful in business. Like to have a franchise where you open, you know, 100 stores and 100 stay open, it just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? You're gonna have some that don't make it. Like no matter how big the brand, Macca's closed down stores and things like that. It's just there's, for whatever reason, it just doesn't always work. And you've got to make sure that you're constantly learning from those lessons and actually taking them on board for the next time. And as I said, it might be a location thing. It might have been an owner thing. Maybe we need to do more due diligence when it comes to those particular things. Whatever it is, we learned a lot last year. But it was also a year, as I said, back at the start of 2018, was probably the first time we actually got to stand back and look at our business as well. And it was a time that we really said, hang on, like instead of maybe opening up another 20 stores this year, like let's keep that at a minimum and really, really focus in on fixing the back end and really trying to like hone in on our systems and procedures, hone in on all our relationships with our suppliers and do new contracts and new supplier agreements and start to get our costings at a point where it's like really, really competitive for our stores. So there's no reason why they could go wrong, and focus in on the little things for them and teach them more about community, teach them more about how to run their business, teach them more about finance and cash flow. And like that was a really big aim for us. So it sort of set us up now for the next growth curve. And I think you got to understand that business doesn't just do this, or if it does do this, you're most likely going to see this. It's like stocks, you know what I mean? Like it's just how it works. But business, as I said, if you got a successful business, it still looks like this. You know what I mean? You're still going to have periods of like massive growth and massive success, and everything goes right. You have periods where it doesn't always go right, but it's how you then take that on board, fix it to then get to the next point. And I think that we're up to that next point in our cycle where we're starting to grow again, and that's a big goal for us. And we're ready to do it. Whereas maybe we weren't necessarily as ready back in the day, but we had to do that because it was the only way we could grow and get to where we got to.
Yep, amazing. And I guess drawing it to a close, I guess one of the second last questions I want to get into is goals. And personal goals will be a topic for another time. But I guess company goals, one thing you posted on your Insta, Sam, that I was really fascinated by is that you guys want to get on the Ellen show.
Yeah, dude.
That was a goal for the company. You sat down and you mapped it out. I am a huge goal person, like it's my jam. Walk me through that one, because that's just such an interesting, big, scary goal.
Well, I mean, we were just sitting down one day and it's like, what's crazy, what's going to be effective, and what's just mind-blowing, and what's got nothing to do with the superfood industry? Ellen.
Yeah. That was like, it literally was like, if we get to that level, Like we've, not that like Ellen is like the thing,
not
like it's
my
like the pinnacle like of like business.
Dwayne
or
Johnson's
anything.
my pinnacle.
Yeah.
Not Ellen.
You're the
But it was
Australian
just-
Dwayne Johnson. I just realised. That's a branding move right there. Let's go.
But it was just one of those things that were just like, you know, if we get to that level, that's just one of those achievements that I think we'll look back at and really just like high five each other and really like enjoy that moment. Because like in business, as I said, you forget to sometimes look at everything you've created behind you and go, hey, actually did like well done. Like, because you get in that mindset of like, we opened one store and that was like so exciting, so amazing. We have a store, like I can actually now for free walk in and go get a bowl if I want. That's pretty cool. Like I love this product. I can eat it for free now. It's my own cafe. This is cool. And then you open the second store and you're like, dude, I've got 2 locations that I can now go to in the Redlands. This is crazy. We have 2 stores. I think that was more of a big moment for us than when we had 22. You know what I mean? Because after 2, you're like, well, now I want 10. You know, we got to get to 10. And then when you get to 10, you're like, well, really, we should be at 20. And when you get to 20, you're like, well, now we've got to be at 50.
Honestly, I still get so excited when we open up a store and that first customer comes in and buys a product. I know word of a lie, I still get tingles because it's like that menu that was created in Nan's kitchen by 2 guys with no hospitality experience. This person's coming in and buying a product. Still blows my mind.
It's the fact that they're thinking about us. The fact that someone might wake up and go, yeah, I want Acai Brothers this morning. Like, they're thinking about us. Like, they're thinking about something we created. Like, that is like still every single day.
Honestly, but like,
how
it's
is that
weird. Like,
possible?
we're driving our cars and we've got Acai Bro number plates and stuff like that, and people are literally like, yo! Like, it's weird. It's a bizarre
travel, like,
feeling.
we got an opportunity last year.
That's so epic, man.
We got an
So
opportunity
epic.
last year to travel a little bit more around the world and to see other concepts because we're really looking at expanding globally now. And that was the biggest goal for us. Is like, let's see more of the concepts. Who's doing what? Like, is anyone as good as us? And why are they as good as us? Like, we wanted to look and delve into everything. And what we saw as well is like every single acai store we walked into, Thailand, London, US, Singapore, Europe, like didn't matter where we went. Everyone, as soon as we walked in the door, knew who we were. And we're like the celebrities of the superfood, right?
I would not be
You know
expecting
what I mean?
that.
Like,
That's
that blew our
crazy.
mind because we
They're
never
like,
really
you guys
stepped
are
outside
the
of Australia.
Acai Brothers.
Straight away.
That was in Singapore, yeah.
Yeah. And we were doing,
That's my Singaporean accent.
and straight away we knew we were doing something right. But, you know, like these people are actually looking at us as the forefront of the brand. We need to stay there now. Like, we need to make sure that we're continually reinventing the wheel and like we're innovating constantly, because the business that doesn't evolve is the business that dies. You know what I mean? And that's how we've always been. Every single store we open is different. Like, in the fact that we're constantly trying to make things better every single time. Like, when we launch a new menu, we're trying to look at every single detail from, you know, distribution and logistics to the actual ingredients that we're using to what the experience is going to be when it's served and how it looks. Like, everything is important, and you've got to constantly continue to evolve your business. As I said, we're looking at other products now and other things that we can do to make revenue for the company and to get our branding out to the masses, because that's what we're looking at now. So
Yeah,
we've got
just
an
stay
entrenched
tuned,
following.
man. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
there's some pretty cool products that are coming out over the next sort of like 6 to 12 months. They're actually going to be really, like, it will challenge this superfood space. People will be like, what? Acai Brothers are doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, which
Same
is going to be
lane,
really
yeah.
cool. So I
Yeah.
reckon it's going to be like targeting mainstream Australia.
Very cool.
So yeah,
That's the
stay
goal
tuned.
now. Like,
That's a
I
bit
think,
of a
yeah.
like a...
Yeah.
I think that's a
Let's
big
go.
thing. Like, you got to look at your business
Yeah.
though, and you see that like that's our core demographic. Okay, like we're a really single, very small demographic of people that really like. We say like the hairy armpitted, you know, yoga teachers. Like, that's like our
People that
main
wear
person. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the person that like really knows about our product and is fully entrenched in it, and they love it. And there's so many core things that they follow us for. But then we're trying to now go, okay, well, that's the one that we've nailed, and they're an amazing customer. But how do we get to here, which is that next demographic? How do we get to here, which is that next demographic? And that all takes different things that you've got to implement in your business, and that's what we're focused on now.
Awesome. Guys, there's so much more I want to get into, but we've just run out of time. Like, just talking to you both, it's just an amazing story how you guys have grown from literally nothing, starting at Nando's, to what you guys have built now, about to expand into the US. It's just absolutely amazing. Just before we finish up, where can everyone find you guys online on social?
Yeah, so at acaibrothers.com. You can find us at Instagram, Acai Brothers, as well as Facebook. Personally, Sam_Acai Brothers.
Hashtag?
Hashtag
Ben
Dwayne
_Acai
Johnson.
Brothers. Yeah. But yeah, like, as I said, the usual places.
Yeah.
Like, we're all over the place. We try to use social media a lot, so you'll see
Yeah.
us on
If you
there.
go to one of our stores, tag us and spread the love.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Last question. There's a phone sitting right there. You get to pick it up and you call 18-year-old Sam and you get to call 18-year-old Ben. You have 5 minutes on the phone. What are you saying? to
Do you want me to
your
talk
younger
for 5
versions?
minutes? No.
What's the key advice you're going to give to Sam and Ben for yourself as well?
I think the biggest thing is like, you're on the right path. Just don't be too naive to the fact of how hard everything's going to be, and learn to deal with stress and the hardships, because they're going to come and they're going to come thick. When they come, they always come in waves. We're always talking about it like you don't get hit with one bad thing. You get hit with 10 at once. And it's being able to deal with that and still keep moving forward constantly. And I think that's just like, and it was something that I was obviously used to at that age, but I think it's just like, just prepare yourself. You know what I mean? Because like, it's not going to be an easy ride. Yep. And even when you think it's going well, like there's always, never rest on your laurels. Like, you know what I mean? Never rest on your laurels. Constantly be thinking about the next thing you can do and the next thing that can make your business better, because, before you know it, something can be over. We're very, very lucky to be in the position we're in. Like, never take it for granted.
I love it. And Sam, key piece of advice.
I honestly have 2 words, and it's be patient. Done.
Be patient. Boys, absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Cheers.
for coming on the show.
Man. Thank you so much.
Champion.
I know I'm coming through fine through every fire. You put a flame inside